MIT Center for Collective Intelligence, we have a statement that says that engagement is a product of love, money, and glory. And Wikipedia is done by this kind of engagement. How do you see this statement, and how do you think this applies to Wikipedia running model?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Love, money, and glory. I don't think there's much money.
Yes.
Doesn't drive the contributors. Glory, no, it's not like blogging or Instagram where you become famous. But it's love. It's love of knowledge, love of meeting interesting people and debating things you care about and chewing on ideas. And that's always been really the heart of the Wikipedia community.
Yes. And do you think that cultural differences makes it work in different ways around the world? How do you say Brazil in this context?
Yeah, not so much actually. A lot of the communities are very, very similar. I would say there is a kind of a geek culture that transcends national culture, regional culture. But we do see some differences. Certainly in Japanese Wikipedia, it's far more common for people to edit without logging in, for example.
Really?
And that's part of the Japanese culture of being a bit more anonymous online. But other than that, also the Dutch Wikipedians seem to argue quite a lot. I don't know why, but I think they're a very tolerant culture, but they must be tolerant because they argue so much. But but in general, no, the communities are very, very similar all around the world.
Cool. It's very interesting to hear these kind of things. And when I think about misinformation and all the challenges that we are facing right now, how do you balance openness and dealing with these issues?
Well, for us, we've always been very, very open, and we've been dealing with people coming to Wikipedia to try and write nonsense for a long time. This is nothing new. So we always insist on reliable sources. That's really the bedrock principle of how Wikipedia works. Is it's not the place to come and just say what's on your mind or your opinion about something, but we really want to be factual. We want to get the facts from sources that we think are reliable, and we debate a lot about what counts as a reliable source and in what context and so forth. So it's a very different model from social media and things like that, which means we're not particularly susceptible to the kinds of problems you see with viral misinformation that gets passed around because it's just too plausible and exciting, or maybe it's something that frightens people or excites them. And that doesn't really impact Wikipedia because we're more slow and methodical.
These biases, it's for sure one of the most important social problems, and social networks kind of potentialize this kind of feeling. How do you deal with biases in content creation and neutrality? How can you manage this?
Yeah. So, well, we are humans, so we all come to things with our own perspectives, our own biases, which we have to think about and attempt to correct for. I think it really has to do with having a healthy community that believes in the idea of neutrality and the idea of presenting different perspectives fairly. And what I find is that a lot of people are actually quite good at that. We learn the lesson from social media that everybody's just like, rah, rah, rah. But there's a lot of people who are like, okay, actually, I can see both sides of this issue. I can see both sides of this debate. I can try and be fair and present, what both sides have said. It's also, of course, quite important to have a diverse community. So you have people who come from different perspectives. Because if everybody is from the same perspective, they may not even notice a bias until someone points it out to say, oh, this, my humorous example is always the question of who invented the airplane. And if you ask any English-speaking person, it was definitely the Wright brothers. There's no question about it. You learned it when you were 6 years old. But if you ask in France, it's actually a Brazilian. I don't even know his name, but
Santos Dumont.
Yeah, of course. And that's who invented the airplane. It's obvious, right? And so there's nothing, this isn't a harmful debate, right? And in fact, it's an illustration of how wow, you need people from different backgrounds to say, oh, but did you know this? And so hopefully now in Wikipedia, it will acknowledge all the different people who were involved in the invention. And, from MIT Technology Review, there's a very strong tendency to point to one person as the inventor of
Yes.
something big. And I think particularly with the airplane, we have all seen sort of old newsreels of people with bicycles and flapping wings that didn't work, and then they invented the airplane. But actually, like every technological innovation, there were advantages and incremental steps forward. My understanding is the Wright brothers were the first to fly further than they would have without power, so further than a glider, and that's their claim to fame. But they missed out one thing, which was actually going up. It's kind of important for an airplane.
Yeah, definitely.
And the Brazilian was the first to go up. So that's a more interesting story, really. And that's just an illustration of how diversity in the community can really help us to say, okay, I didn't know that. Like, I was told this when I was 6 years old. I never knew it was a thing to debate about. So it's always fun and interesting.
And probably this is one of the most iconic examples of these kind of point of views being mixed. And this model of integrating collaboration, when we see, for example, YouTube, each collaboration is unique. So you have a video that it doesn't integrate to each other.
Right.
When we have something at Wikipedia, you have all these people
working
that
together.
can work together.
Yes.
They may edit something. They may add some other content to something that is already there.
Yeah.
How this model came up? What's the differences between this kind of collaboration by integration and this collaboration that is unique?
Yeah. So I think part of it has to do with the nature of text. Text is very fluid, so you can write a paragraph and I can add 3 words, or I can change a few things, and then you can check and see if you agree with my changes and so forth. Whereas for a video, it's just there. I can't say after the fact, oh, well, you should have done this. It's too late. The camera's not there anymore, and you're not there, and so on. And so video is inherently more one shot, one integration. Obviously, you can still edit videos, bring together different clips of footage and things like that. But text is really quite unique in that regard. But also, our purpose is to create an encyclopedia. An encyclopedia is inherently it's not a quirky, interesting one person's view on the world, whereas a lot of really great stuff, for example, on YouTube, is one person's opinion, one person's view of how something should be done. I do a lot of cooking, and every chef has their way of making scrambled eggs or something like this, and when you watch the video, you're like, this is how I do it, and that's fine. It's not an averaged out sort of recipe that many people have contributed to.
How are you guys addressing artificial intelligence between this context? Do you think it's going to be useful to ensure neutrality, to make biases less? How do you see this happening?
So I think it's still early, but we have a machine learning group who are investigating a lot of ideas and experimenting and thinking. And so you mentioned, for example, bias and neutrality. It's not difficult to imagine. You could say to ChatGPT, here's a Wikipedia entry. Please identify any statements here that appear to be biased. And then a human could go and have that and say, oh, no, that's not biased. That could be worded better. And you can see how it could be helpful. We would never replace that human in the process, but I'm really intrigued about, how can AI help us? So it's not even so much just in an individual article, but what about across all of Wikipedia? Suppose you had an AI and you fed it all of Wikipedia. It would take days and analyze all of Wikipedia and make up a list of potentially problematic articles that appear to be very biased, or they appear to be not have enough sources, or they contradict their own sources, that kind of thing. Even if you just came up with a list of articles, and it wouldn't have to be perfect, but if it's pretty good, I think our community would find that incredibly helpful. Because sometimes you come as a Wikipedia and you say, oh, I'm going to do some Wikipedia stuff today. and you maybe go to your favorite area or your favorite topic, or you think of something random and you think you'll do that. But you might want to say, actually, I want to work on the problem. Like, where is Wikipedia weak? How can I help? I'm going to research something completely new. And you don't mind if it's random. You just want to make sure that I'm not wasting my time. I'm not going to a perfectly wonderful article and reading all the sources and it turns out it was fine all along. I want something I can get my hands on and get to. And I think AI can probably do that today. The best large language models. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. If it's just good enough that it doesn't waste my time, I'll find that very interesting.
One last question. So you describe a very smart way of understanding the role of artificial intelligence in this context. And Wikipedia is for sure one of the most well-succeeded examples of human collaboration, trying to produce knowledge. Do you see in the future these collaboration producing things, not only analyzing, but producing things in a collaboration between human intelligence and artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of things like that, where people are using AI. I mean, you can imagine some of the early use cases would be, which we could even see today, which is, let's say that you are a native speaker of Brazilian Portuguese, and you think, I learned French in school, but I know my French isn't very strong, but you want to write something for French Wikipedia about a Brazilian topic. Well, using machine translation or AI support, that would not just translate, but would also maybe give you suggestions about your grammar, things like. All those tools are already beginning to exist, already beginning to be fairly good. That you say, "Oh, I've written this text in French. Can you help me make it sound more like a native speaker and fix it for me?" And that's huge. Like, that's amazing. Sure. That you can have that kind of intellectual support. And then also, I think just the one of the strengths of ChatGPT is that it has a very wide base of knowledge. It's also very shallow in a sense, right? It doesn't really understand anything, but it's got a very wide base of knowledge, which may mean that there will be opportunities around, say, interdisciplinary work of bringing ideas together from remote areas that might be difficult for anyone. And I don't think ChatGPT could do it, but could it suggest, if I'm an economist maybe, and I'm writing a piece, I might say, can you suggest some things from experimental behavioral psychology that might inform my work? Okay, that could be a useful tool. It could be very interesting, where it reads the paper and it says, well, this is similar to an experiment that was done that you never heard of, right? And it's not that the AI is really a genius in coming up with ideas, but that it's more of an effective way of searching, you might say.
Yeah, maybe connect some dots.
And maybe it's wrong, but maybe it's interesting.
Yeah.
And then the human expert could say, no, you're just wrong, but okay, thanks for your weird idea. But it's hard to say.
Good. I'm looking forward to see those things happening, and thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
I have done so far.
Great.
Congratulations.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks.